Okay, so let's do an example for the first case, which you've already seen. The first case is when we're dealing with datums that are discrete in nature, meaning they are numbers that are countable numbers. All right. So you can see we're dealing with values between 4 and 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are our unique numbers. And we have a relatively small sample size, a sample size of 24. Now, this really doesn't take that long to do, but this video will be a little longer because I'm going to explain how to get the measures of center using the Texas Instruments calculator, the NUMWORKS calculator, Microsoft Excel, and Google Sheets. So you're going to see instruction of all of those, during the course of this video. So you can skip ahead to only the parts that you want to see later. Um, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're dealing with case one. We have discrete datums, relatively small data set. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is using the Texas Instruments calculator uh, to um, to calculate these measures of center. So I'm going to flip over to a calculator emulator. It's going to look close to what your calculator looks like. And let me turn this on and let me get out of this. So what you want to do is, this is probably the screen that you're in. This is your normal calculator screen. Um, so regardless of whether you have a TI-84 plus CE or a TI-84 plus or a TI-83, what we want to do is we want to go into the list editor. So to get into the list editor, you want to come over here. Let me make this large. There we go. So let me come over here to the list editor. So I want to hit the Stat button. And the first option that I have is Edit. So I want to go into the list editor and I want to edit that. So I'll hit Enter. And you can see I've already kind of pre-typed in some of the values. So you notice that the list editor has several list headings. So we've got list 1, which is this column, list 2, which is this column, list 3, 4, 5, and there's even a sixth one. So if I hit the right arrow key, there's list 6, and I think that's kind of it. So I'm going to go back over to list 1. And so list 1 contains all of the unique datum values that we had in the data set. So remember I had said we had the numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So all you need to do is just kind of go in there and type in each number and hit enter. So I left out the last one, so I'm going to put in the last one, which was a 10. So I'm going to type in 10. So notice that it put 10 down here. And as soon as I hit enter, here in the 7th row of list 1, it's going to put a 10 right there. There we go. Now, the second list, list 2, this contains the frequencies of each of the datums. So hopefully you have your calculator in front of you and you're also looking at the lecture notes that I just gave you. And notice that there's only one 4. So 4 has a frequency of 1. There was only one 5. So 5 has a frequency of 1. There were 2 6s, right? 4 7s, 6 8s, 8 9s, and there are 2 10s. So list 2 contains the frequencies of each value in list 1. Okay. So this is how you want to use, excuse me, the list editor. All right. So now that we've got our data set input into our Texas Instruments calculator, Now we want to use a calculator function which can use this data set to calculate our measures of center. So to do that, hit the Stat button, right click. So right now we have the Edit menu selected. We want to go to the Calc menu. And now that we're in the Calc menu, notice it has all of these different options. And the option that we want is this first one, which is one variable stats. So right now one is selected. You can see if I use the down arrow, it moves down. If I use the up arrow, it goes up. So we want one variable stats. We'll hit enter. And now it's asking for the list of our data and the list of our frequencies. So list one had the list of our unique datums. If yours does not say list one like this, okay, how do you put list L1, in there? So notice that on your calculator, you can see you've got L1 in blue above the number 1 key, L2 in blue above the 2 key, L3 in blue over the 3 key, and then there's L4, L5, and L6. So you can type in L1 if you hit the blue second button first. Notice how the cursor changes to an up arrow, and then hit the number 1 key second, and it'll print an L1 there. Okay. Again, let me do that again. So notice that the cursor is just black and blinking, but as soon as I hit the second button, it becomes an up arrow, meaning it's going to use what's up above the 1 key in blue. And then if I hit the 1 key next, then it puts L1. Now I can hit enter, and it'll go down to the next option that it's asking for some input. And that's the list of frequencies. And so that was L2. So L2, we can get that here. So we'll hit second first, and then we'll hit the number 2 key second, and that prints an L2. And then we can either hit enter or the down arrow key. And this is what we're going to select now to calculate our measures of center, or our one variable stats. So let me hit enter. And so these are all of the calculations that the calculator made based off of the data that you put in the list editor. And so the first one here at the top, X bar, this is our sample mean. So this is that first measure of center. So the sample mean was 7.875. Now the median is here, but there's actually more down below. And I can tell that because I can see this downward arrow on the left-hand side. So if I use the downward arrow key on the keypad, there's the median, MED. And so the median is 8. I can keep scrolling and it'll show me a little bit more information, but we'll just come up here. And so the median is 8. Now notice that the Texas Instruments calculator, the one variable stats, only gives you the mean, and it gives you the median, but it does not give you the mode. Okay. So this is how to use one variable stats to get mean and median of a data set that you put into your list editor. So once you've recorded these, you can get out of it, by quitting. So to get quit, you just hit second and the mode button. And now we're back here. All right, so let me show you now how to do that with the NUMWORKS calculator. So in the NUMWORKS calculator, you're probably going to be in the home screen. And in the home screen, there's a bunch of little sub-applications. Okay, the sub-application we want is this one called statistics. So if you click OK, now we are in the statistics app. You can see the word statistics here at the top of the screen. And yours is blank, probably here under the data tab. But I went ahead, in the interest of time, and put these values in. So this value column, these are the unique datums that were in the data set, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's 10. So I'm going to put a 10 in here in a second. And then this frequency column is the frequency, right? So we had 1, 4, 1, 5, 2 6s, 4 7s, 6 8s, 8 9s, and now I'm going to put in 2 10s. So I'm going to use the down arrow key to go down and type in a 10. And then I'll use the right arrow key to put in the frequency, that there were 2 of them. All right. Now, the NUMWORKS calculator works a little differently. There isn't like a separate function that you need to run. Instead, notice that in this statistics app, there are 3 tabs. So right now we're in the data tab, and we want to go over to the stats tab. So I'm going to arrow up. And before I go to the stats tab, notice that we have our values are in the column V1 and the frequency is in N1. Okay, so I've moved up to the data tab. Now I'm going to move to the right to the stats tab and hit OK. And you can see these are all of the calculated statistics of the data that we just put in. And you see here it says V1N1. But I need to click to the right a little bit. Let me see. Actually, maybe I don't. Oh, no, I don't. Sorry. This toolbar was in my way. All right. So, under number of data points or the sample size, you'll notice that it counted that there was 24 data points. And here's the median right here. So the median is 8. All right, but we don't see the mean yet. So we just have to scroll down. There's the median. All right, here's the mean of that data set, 7.875. I guess this would have been better to use sample mean. This is X bar. That's population mean. So I'd make sure you look under sample mean. So the sample mean is 7.875. Now what the NUMWORKS calculator does is it also looks for the mode. So we'll keep going down. There we go. And so it found the mode, which was 9, and the modal frequency, the frequency of the mode was 8. So there were 8 9s. So this is something that the NUMWORKS calculator does that the Texas Instruments does not. Okay. So, so here we are in the statistics app. And under the stats tab, we can go back over to the data tab and we can see our data. And if we want to go back to the home screen, we can just hit this home button, this orange home button here, and it just takes us back. We can go to the calculation app and click OK. And now we can use this like a regular calculator. If we want to get back to those apps, just hit the home screen, go back to statistics, and off you go. Okay. So now you've seen how to enter these data values into both calculators, but how would you do this in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets? Now, this is very instructive because even though you've only got 24 data values here, when you are doing your project and you've got 50 or 100 or 500 rows of data, you can use what I'm going to teach you to help you calculate the average or the mean and the median of that large number of data sets or datums. So let me show you how to do that next. So first, what we'll do is we'll go into Microsoft Excel. And so in Microsoft Excel, I've already put in, this variable, which is X, and I put in all the data. Okay. I didn't put datum frequency like the calculators did. I just went ahead and copied and pasted, all of the data in there. So this is all of it, right? There's 1 4, 1 5, 2 6s, 4 7s, 6 8s, 8 9s, and 2 10s. Okay, so let me show you how to use Microsoft Excel here. So one of the first things we want to calculate is we want to calculate the mean. So all I'm doing right now, actually, is I'm just, putting in some headers here. We're not actually calculating anything yet. So I'm just changing my focus to each of these different cells, and I'm just typing in mean, median, and mode. Now I'm going over to the next column over using the arrow keys. And this is where we're going to put our first Microsoft Excel function. Now, when you just start typing, if you just start typing like we just did, Microsoft Excel doesn't recognize that as anything other than text. But if you want to command Microsoft Excel to do a calculation, then how you communicate to Excel to tell it you're doing that is you start your whatever you want to type, you start with an equal sign. So if you start with an equal sign, that tells Microsoft Excel that what you type next is going to be some kind of function. Okay. Now, unfortunately, in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets, there isn't a mean function. Okay. Instead, they call it the average. So if we start typing in the word average, you can see it tries to auto-complete, and the function we want to use is this one called average. So if I double click it like that, oops, let me go back. Then it puts the word average in. Okay, so up here at the top, this is what's called the equation field, I think. And this is just kind of like a copy of what we've got down here, except you have a lot more space to type in your function. And so this average function is looking for a set of numbers to average in. And so notice that it says average and it says left parentheses. So now what we've got to do is we have to select the data that we want it to do an average of. So we can come over here to the first number, left click and hold, and drag all the way down to the last one, and then let go. And notice that it put in A2 colon A25. Well, A2 was the first cell that we clicked on, and A25 was the last. This colon means everything in between. So from A2 and everything in between to A25. Another way to do this, if you have more data than what you've got, is if you click the first one, hold down the Shift key, which is what I'm doing right now, and then click the last one. So now it'll select everything in between. This is handy because, what if the data you had gone all the way down? Then you could select the first one. You could scroll down a little bit until you're to the very last one, hold down the Shift key and left click, and now it gives you everything else in between. Okay, so that's a handy little trick. So that's what I'm going to use is click the first one, hold down the Shift key, click on the last one, and this is the range of data that we're going to do an average of. The last thing you need to do is to put in a right parentheses like that. So this average, this word average, this is actually an Excel function, and the arguments, the inputs for that function are between these two parentheses, left and right. So now as soon as I hit this check mark, it's going to perform that function. And there it is, 7.875. That's the same value that we got on both calculators. Okay, so now let's do that with median. So if we left click in cell C3, We want to communicate to Excel that we want to do a calculatable function. So we start it with an equal sign. Now we want to do the median. So we can type in MED and it's auto-completing. And so notice that here next to the word median, it gives us an explanation. It returns the median or the number in the middle of a set of given numbers. So we can just double click that. And now it wants a range. So we can click the first one, hold down the Shift key, select the last one. Now we have to close this with a right parentheses, like that. And now we could just hit Enter or hit this green check mark. And that's our median. It's an 8. Now this also has a mode function. So we hit equals to communicate we want to do some kind of function or calculation. Start typing in mode. Now there's different versions of mode. What we want is we want a single mode. Okay, so I'm going to double click single mode. Now it wants the range of data. Click the first, hold down Shift, click the last, put in right parentheses. And now I could just hit Enter, or I could click this green check mark. And now the mode is 9. So remember, the mode being 9 was what the NUMWORKS calculator also calculated. So this is how to get the measures of center from a data set using Microsoft Excel. Now let's flip over and let me show you how to do that with Google Sheets. So here's the same data set in Google Sheets, and you can see it looks very, very similar. So you pretty much do it the same way. So I'm going to type in mean, equal sign, median, equal sign, hit Enter, mode, hit equal sign, hit Enter. Okay, now I'm going to come over here to this cell C2. This is where I'm going to do my calculation. And again, whenever you want to communicate to spreadsheet software, you want to tell spreadsheet software that what you're going to type in next is going to be part of some kind of calculation or function. You always have to start with an equal sign. Always have to start with an equal sign. Okay. Now, unfortunately, Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets does not have a mean function. Instead, they call it an average. Okay. So if you start to type in the function you have in mind, it'll try an autocomplete. And so what we want to do is we want to use this average function. And it's trying to autocomplete it. And I wish it wouldn't do that. But I'm going to manually control it here. So you can either left click and hold and drag all the way down. And so now we're going to be doing an average of the cells between A2 to A25. So notice here it says A2 colon A25. A2 is the first cell. A25 is the last. The colon means everything in between. Okay. Another way to do it would be to select the first cell and then hold down the Shift key and then select the last cell. And now it selects everything in between for you. Okay, again, that was by holding down the Shift key. This is a useful trick because if you had more datums than what you can see, where you'd have to scroll down to see the very last one, what you can do is you can select the first one, scroll down, hold down the Shift key, and select the last one. And you can see now it selects everything from that last one all the way up to the first one. And you can see that kind of represented here in the equation field up here at the top from A2 to A100. Okay. But all we have are values from A2 to A25. And we just have to end this by putting in a right parentheses. So the way that spreadsheet functions work is that when you put in a function, the arguments or the inputs for that function are inside the parentheses. So that's why it starts with a left parentheses, and that's why you have to type in a right parentheses when you're done. And now if we hit enter, it's going to calculate that average function. Now, this mess down below, I wish it would not autofill. Just click X to reject that suggestion. Okay, so 7.875 is the mean of these 24 datums. It's the same value that we got with both calculators. So now let's do median. So remember, you have to first hit equal sign. To tell the spreadsheet software, you're actually now going to start typing in a function. So now if we put MED, all right, so this is the function we want to use, this median function. So we'll click it. And we want to do everything from A2 to A25. Notice we need to also put in a right parentheses and then hit enter. And the median of this data set is 8. For the mode, again, we have to start with equals. Start to type in mode. And you see it says mode single. So this is the most commonly occurring value in a data set. So we'll click that once. And we'll go from A2 to A25. And then hit right parentheses. And then enter. All right, so now I've shown you, if you're given the first case where you've got discrete data, small data set, how you can use Texas Instruments calculators, NUMWORKS calculator, Microsoft Excel, and Google Sheets to get the measures of center that you need. And once again, even though we did this on a small data set, calculating these measures of center with Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel will be necessary for your student project. So make sure that you give this a try and you look at how to add functions.